spent time with you. You're one of the most humble, honest, caring, Bible knowledge guys I've ever met, and man, I just honor you so much. And so thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you so much, Isaiah. Would love your teaching, and again, we really appreciate you having me on.
It's going to be awesome. So I'd love for you tonight, I know we kind of have a list of things we want to talk about, guys. There's some questions I'm going to ask him that are hard-hitting questions. They're very important. One of them we'll talk about later is, are there in people in hell right now? There's a popular false teaching going around saying everybody's soul sleeping until the final judgment, then people go to hell. But they're saying no one's in hell now, which we're not going to go into that yet, but we're going to talk about questions like that later. I want to start with Bill. Take your time. I want to hear your story of how you went to hell for 23 minutes. So just feel free to share. We're going to go into your story, and then maybe I'll stop you as you go and ask questions. But feel free to go, and then we'll go through the questions after that.
Okay. Well, just a 1-minute background real quickly. I've been a Christian for 53 years. I've been a real estate broker with my own company for 51 years. I've been married for 27 years, and now I've been in the ministry for 26 of these years. 17 years full-time traveling, my wife and I. So that's my background. I'm a conservative person by nature. I've never gone to dark movies. I've never taken drugs. I've never drank, and I never had a vision before. So this was not a near-death experience. This was an out-of-body experience that's classified as vision in the Bible. In 2 Corinthians 12:2, Paul, when he was caught up into heaven in a vision, he said whether in the body or out of the body, he didn't know. Well, the Lord showed me that I left my body. And my wife and I went to a prayer meeting. We attended every Sunday night, nothing unusual about the night. I had never studied the topic of hell at that point. I was a Christian for 28 years at that point. Came home like any other normal night, went to bed. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get a glass of water. And suddenly I was pulled out of my body, like being drawn out of your body. I saw my body fall to the floor. And I started tumbling down this long tunnel, and it was getting hotter and hotter. And I passed through this open cavern-like area, and then I landed on a stone floor in a prison cell in hell. Rough-hewn stone walls, bars, filthy, stinking, dirty prison, but like a dungeon. But Isaiah 24:22 says, and they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison. Proverbs 7:37 mentions going down to hell, to the chambers of death. And the word chambers means inner rooms. Job 17:16, they shall go down to the bars of the pit. Jonah 2:6, the earth with your bars was about me. Well, this was where I first found myself. It was literally from the stone floor in hell. I wondered how I get here, why am I here? I was still awake and cognizant, just like I am now. And the first thing I noticed was the intense heat. It was like a blast furnace, and I wondered how could I be alive in this horrible. It was unbearable. And so my reaction was I wanted to get up and run out of this prison cell. But I noticed I had no physical strength in my body. But Isaiah 14:9-10 says, hell from beneath is moved to meet thee at thy coming. They will say, art thou become weak as we? In Psalms 88:4 says, I am counted with them that go down into the pit. I am as a man that has no strength. Now, if you ever had the flu and you felt weak, it's 1,000 times worse than that. Any movement takes tremendous effort. But see, Acts 17:28 says, in him we live and move and have our being. So even movement comes from God. It's not automatic.
Wow.
I looked up and I saw these two reptilish beings, demons, that were pacing in the cell. They were about 12 or 13 feet tall. There's scripture for that, but I'll keep moving. And they were blaspheming and cursing God. They had an extreme hatred for God. Like I said, they were reptilish in appearance, bumps and scales all over the one's body, huge jaw, sucking in eyes, claws about a foot long. And but you know, blasphemy comes from the demonic realm. Revelation 13:6, James 2:7, and some others. Then they directed this hatred they had for God, they directed it towards me. I wondered why. What have I done to them? But the one demon picked me up and threw me into the wall of this prison cell, like I weighed the weight of a water glass. Demons have great strength. You have none. I hit the wall. I felt as if every bone in my body had been broken. Now, maybe a spirit doesn't have bones, but it sure felt that way. I collapsed on the floor, wondering how could I be alive through this. But I have to explain one thing, Isaiah. I understood most of the pain that I normally would have felt was being blocked. But in fact, the Lord explained to me, he blocked most of it, but he did allow me to feel a small amount of the pain so I could relate to people. It's not metaphorical. It's not a state of the mind. It's real pain you're going to feel in hell. Then this other demon that was in the cell picked me up from behind and dug its claws in my chest and just tore the flesh open. I couldn't believe again, how could I be alive through this? I noticed I had a body. Matthew 10:28 says, fear him who was able to destroy both soul and body in hell. And remember Luke 16, the rich man, he wanted a drop of water to cool his tongue. He had a mouth to speak. He had eyes to look. He had a tongue. You have a body in hell, but it withstands these torments. But something else I noticed, there was no blood or water coming from the wounds. But Leviticus 17:11 says the life of the flesh is in the blood. Well, there's no life in hell, so there's no blood. And Zechariah 9:11 says, thy prisoners out of the pit where there is no water. There's not one drop of water in hell. And these demons have no mercy over you whatsoever. They have an extreme hatred for mankind. But Psalms 103:17 says, the mercy of the Lord is upon those that fear him. Well, they don't fear him in hell, so you don't derive the benefit of mercy. Now, Isaiah, about this time, it went dark. Now, I believed it was God's presence there to illuminate it, but he withdrew his light. And its normal state of absolute pitch black darkness. But Lamentations 3:6 says, he has set me in dark places as they that be dead of old. Jude 13 mentions blackness of darkness forever. But it wasn't just dark. You could actually feel the darkness. And that's not an exaggeration. Exodus 10:21 mentions a darkness that may be felt. Because it just seems to penetrate through every cell in your body. It is so dark you cannot see the hand in front of your face. Now I was taken out of this prison cell by God, but I didn't know it was God. And he placed me over next to this large raging pit of fire. This pit was about a mile across in diameter. I just understood that. A huge hole in the ground filled with fire and flames raging high up into this open cavern. And it was not metaphorical or allegorical fire. It was real, literal fire. I felt the heat, saw the flames, but more importantly, it's what the scripture says. Psalms 11:6 says, upon the wicked he will rain fire and brimstone and a horrible tempest. Psalms 140 verse 10, let burning coals fall upon them. Let them be cast into the fire, in the deep pits. Matthew 13:49, the angels shall sever the wicked from the just and cast the wicked into a furnace of fire. But this is where I could first see people. I could see through the flames. The light did not travel, but I could see through the flames in this pit, and there were literally thousands of people burning in this pit. And they just look like skeletons. You cannot distinguish a man from a woman, and the screams are deafening. It is so loud with all these people screaming. You want to escape that, but you can't. You have to endure that for all eternity. But Isaiah 57:21 says, there is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked. There's no peace of mind, no peace of any kind. But Isaiah 32:18 says, my people dwell in a quiet resting place. So you don't derive the benefit of quiet. Now, I understood I was down deep in the earth. I descended to get there. I ascended when I left. But more importantly, there's 49 scriptures that point out where the current hell is. I'll just give you two. Ezekiel 26:20, Numbers 16:32 and 33. Very clear it's down deep in the earth. But I understood that. And I also understood there were different levels of torment and degrees of punishment. Remember, Jesus said in Matthew 23:14, you shall receive the greater damnation. That infers a lesser damnation. Or Matthew 10:15, he said it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. That infers a less tolerable. Or Hebrews 10:28 says, of how much worse of a punishment suppose it shall be for you, you who have trodden underfoot the Son of God. But my point is, there is no tolerable, comfortable level in hell. Any level is far worse than your mind can even conceive. Now, I wanted to talk to my wife. I just wanted to let her know where I was at or say goodbye, but I understood, Isaiah, that I'll never have an opportunity. You know, Job 7:9 says, he that goes down to Sheol shall come up no more. The word Sheol is the Hebrew word for the current hell. Hades is the Greek word. But I understood I'll never get to her. And you don't realize what a tormenting thought that is to have no finality with your family. You never get to say goodbye. I never could tell her I love her. I miss her. I could never hold her again. I understood all that. And she, you know, death does not mean cease to exist. Death means separation from God.
Wow.
You still exist. You're just down deep in the earth. And to live with that for all eternity, that I could never say goodbye, and she doesn't know that I still exist. You're forgotten in hell, Psalms 88:12, Isaiah 26:14, Deuteronomy 32:26, Psalms 109:15